Tuesday evening on Political Turf. It's really great to be back on the show. My name is Bolabo Famous School, and I hope I met you on a good note. So many events today, I tell you, so many political developments. Some will call it political jamboree, from one news to the other. Nigeria appears to be an epicenter of where news is breaking presently. And of course, so many factors, causative factors, are actually attaching us to many developments across the globe. But today and of course this evening, we're going to be looking at political development across the country, nationally itself. And it's really great to have you join us again on the program. And you know this program is coming to you live from Impact Africa Television here in Ibadan. And this evening, we're taking a look at what has been going on in terms of the heated campaign as to who becomes in 2023. Now, INEC is saying no going back for the extension of registration of voters, saying that ended on Sunday. Many are still stranded. Many hadn't even registered at all. We don't know if INEC will rescind that, but hopefully, maybe they would actually look in the way of many people who are yet to register for the process. But from the projection INEC is also looking at, from the north and of course from the west, it appears that there are a lot of people who had registered. But what is Obasanjo coming up to say? Obasanjo is looking at these figures and how much more people in the southeast to be voting. Then he talked about 25% percentage of actually a particular candidate. Now he's referring to Peter Obi clinching. And he's saying there is no need for any rigorous campaign because he feels Peter Obi will win this election, coming from an elder statesman who is a former president of this country. And of course, it started what appears to be a democratic dispensation in Nigeria in 1999. But now joining us on the platform this evening to look at this development very holistically, we have with us Mr. Sumbo Badejoko. He will be dissecting, analyzing, and telling us much more the kind of what he thinks about the permutations coming from ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo. It's great to have you back here, sir.
It's good to be here. Good evening.
Good evening. Looking at what Obasanjo has come up with, now, to many people, they would say it is unbecoming of an elder statesman because many would have expected that an Obasanjo would have been telling people, go and get yourself set for the elections. It's supposed to be an elective process. And now he's trying to say, from all what he's been saying, the figures rolling out and the participation of registration of voters shows that Peter Obi will win the 2023 elections, that if INEC doesn't rig. And now he's trying to also tell INEC that INEC, except if you rig, that's when somebody else will emerge. What do we make out of this?
He has expressed his opinion, which he has rights to as an individual, as a citizen of this country, and as an elder statesman. It's just that to people like us, or someone like me, we look at such statements and we couldn't really understand or comprehend what he is actually trying to do. Is he trying to play a mind game? Is he promoting the candidacy of one of the candidates above the others? But I've always known that he belongs to the establishment.
Establishment in what sense now?
Well, look, we have an oligarch that is holding this nation to ransom, that wants to dictate who governs the country at every point in time. And over the years, they've enjoyed the patronage of successful candidates at election. So I think they've looked at the others on ground, the options available this time around. They would have they have selected Obi as their choice. But some of us are tired of their dictates, and we are out to frustrate their effort this time around, because personally I'm taking that up to do whatever I can to make sure that at least they will not impose on us this time around. We need to know, Nigerians need to know who their real enemies are, because they have this attitude of, if the candidate eventually gets there,
they will be able to penetrate.
And it's not dancing to their tune.
Okay.
They make the country ungovernable for him. They control critical sectors of the economy, of the security, and because Buhari is not their man, you shouldn't be surprised at what we are currently seeing, because both area demand is failing. And meaning that the next president should be someone who will take cognizance of all this mess and will be ready to clean it up without dancing to the tune of anybody, without minding whose ox will be God at the end of the day.
Now, there's also this news. I don't know how much more we can say this factual, but it's been on the social media. Now, I'm talking about Twitter. It's been said that the endorsement for Peter Obi, it's actually getting this kind of momentum. And a particular actor, Sahid Balogun, it's been sketchy, and that he was offered 20 million naira to endorse Peter Obi. Now, it appears that this is strange, given the fact that many would say this is a man who is not willing to spend. And now, within the span of 24 hours, his name appears to be ringing bell in two different dimensions. Now, we've seen another dimension to it, that a man who appears to be more or less like a figure that is being respected within the entertainment industry, and of course he has crowd and followers, rejecting 20 million naira. Do you think some of these candidates could get that desperate, wanting to give out such amount of money for endorsement here?
Well, for Peter Obi, he's not going to spend his personal money. The establishment are how to sponsor him.
Who are these establishments?
Using their links and their influence in all over the place. So whatever you are seeing, how do you reconcile this Twitter conversation? One guy was posted that he was trying to make inquiry that some people are collecting 500,000 to register group in support of Peter Obi. And somebody responded to say, yes, it is true that they are collecting the money so that the group will be recognized within the decision-making body of the campaign organization. So all these are what is going on in the background. Imagine 500,000 to register a group, meaning that, and Peter Obi, we know him having that outlook of a stingy man, will not drop his penny. Yes, he will not drop his penny. But some people being sponsored are going to raise the money for him. You can imagine Aisha Yesufu talking about 100 billion. When the Electoral Act itself does not, the benchmark is 15 billion. So if you now raise 100 billion for an individual, that means one, you're not only going to be violating the Electoral Act, or you are also going to be campaigning on massive vote buying, strategic vote buying. Because what exactly will you be doing with the 100 billion if it is raised? And anything that is mentioned, it means they're actually projecting towards that figure. You understand?
So are we going to say Peter Obi is aware of all of this?
He cannot claim ignorance of all this because he seems to be enjoying the whole
patronage.
Exactly. So, and he's playing along. But at the end of the day, Nigerians will decide. No matter the jamboree, propaganda, marketing, or the marketing that comes out there, a lot of people have decided whom they are going to cast their vote for, and nothing will change that.
Now, there's this thing about him going round, talking about Peter Obi, because he appears to be the subject of the discussions this evening. And he said there's nothing wrong in the likes of Obasanjo selling his candidacy. And now, obviously, Obasanjo appears to be playing that so well. Now, as an oligarch, you talked about an oligarchy going on in the country who are more or less like an establishment. Would we see Obasanjo is still in this ring of kingmakers? Because obviously, from what you're saying, these are people who would decide who we would have as leaders, like what happened after 1999, after he finished, after his 8 years in office. And of course, we had the likes of Jonathan and the late Yar'Adua. And many still recall that it was like a third-term agenda being pushed by the ex-president then. But now, would we still say that the president is still within that cycle of an oligarch who is trying as much as possible to install? Is he still part of the establishment?
He's very much part of it.
How do we explain that?
That's why he's being consulted. Now he's agreed with those who have not consulted him. And he's pitching his tent with those, or with the man that have given him the recognition this time around. One did the consultation last time, didn't work, so he felt there's no need for him to consult him again. One has never really liked his style, so he would not go to him for any reason. So he has seen him that, well, his influence cannot affect his ambition in any way. So he's decided not to go to him. But one has said, okay, let me, at least I respect this Baba. I believe he can help me to achieve my ambition. So whatever he's saying now in support of the candidate in question, and look at things from this angle. All these Nigerian voices are elderly people. The same set of people that have benefited from the system, bastardized the system, set the booby trap for government after them to fall into, are the ones still talking as if they had no part in how the country has
How
become
relevant are they? Like the likes of Obasanjo?
Well,
is it still relevant?
A good number of them are overrated. And of course, they would not want to, they still live in their past glory, wallowing in the euphoria of the past. That's the way they have been carrying themselves. Of course, they enjoy some patronage from those who really do not understand that these people are just paperweights, as far as we are concerned.
But for how long do we have this kind of process? Because it's something that started in 1999. And it appears that after a while it will fizzle out because of our awareness in terms of democracy and our exposure. Now, as much as we've had a number of international meetings, especially within that leadership cycle, now since 1999, has anything changed in the process of even leadership? Many are saying the third force is going to start this time around. Do you sense any third force at all?
Well, we are having an emergence of one. Until it clinches power, we cannot really recognize it as a third force. Initially, we started with an hegemony, a single party hegemony. That got broken in 2015. Now, 7 years on, we're having a third force also emerging. But the circumstances that led to the emergence of the ruling party defeating the incumbent party then is not the same as the circumstances that is behind this third force coming up. You understand? The scenario is different. APC is a product of a merger of existing political party with structures in different geopolitical zone of the country. So it's automatically merged into a mega party. But now we're dealing with a third force that's is more or less existing in more or less an abstract thing, not really on ground in any state, because politics is local. An electoral victory is also determined by local forces. These are some of the things that those who are speaking or giving that Peter Obi that false assurance are not telling him. And I want to, until he can still become the president, but some things will have to precede that. And
what are these things, okay?
Yes, what are these things? Existing structure would have to collapse and adopt the platform.
What platform is that?
The Labour Party. I'm saying that if governors began to decamp into the Labour Party, the governors will be taking the state structure along, especially the structure of the party they are representing. So, which means it will be having automatic governors. We need to have lawmakers, existing lawmakers, decamping into the Labour platform. Because these are people who had contested and won elections in their various localities, that understand the people there, whom the people know.
Will that matter in 2023 elections?
It will still matter, because elections will take place at the polling units, not on social media. I said it on this platform the other day that election is not a reality show. Neither is it a showbiz. It is politics, pure politics. And you don't do that on social media. What you have on social media is propaganda. And that is what we are saying. And propaganda will not determine the next election. All of them will have to go to the grassroots, making use of the structures they already have. And as far as I'm concerned, I still see Atiku and Tinubu having a brighter chance than Peter Obi in the next election.
But from
because they have people on ground, die-hard followers who are recognized within the locality to work for them, which Peter Obi does not have, except he'll have to buy some people over. And if he would, he has to buy the right people, because it's not just throwing money around. This so-called establishment pushing you, a good number of them are disliked. In fact, they are hated in their locality. And the people are aware of who they are. And that disillusionment is already on ground. That determination to stop them this time around is also there. These are things that people are not looking at because they are not in the propaganda that is currently going on in social media, but it's going on the ground, and that is what will determine the next election. So we need to, some of us need to just be telling Nigerians the truth, that come, don't fall for this illusion the way it is, because that is what it is. It's just a mirage for now. You need to look critically to be able to know that this thing is not real. It's not as real as it appears. Because even if he wins the election, maybe by chance, now we'll be having a situation where the president will be from a party, the National Assembly will be from another party, all the states will be controlled by other parties.
Do you see that happening, going on? What about the campaign?
That is what will happen if Peter Obi wins initially.
But when they decamp?
Now, the campaign will cause a problem for his administration, because no big politician will decamp just like that. It's going to be a product of negotiation. Yes, I'm coming to join you. What will be
What are you giving? Wow.
You understand? So you will find a situation where he would have signed different accords with different group of interests that will cause problem for him. At the end of the day, Nigerians will not be that patient. The patience that President Buhari enjoyed between 2015 and 2019, the next president will not enjoy the luxury of that, especially Peter Obi, that is running his mouth anyhow, thinking that once you get there, it's going to be a
hit the ground running.
You understand what I'm saying? That's the problem that he needs to just be thinking, and he shouldn't allow himself to be pushed. You expect him to be more strategic. He's moving too fast, and you get tired in between. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. But he's taking it like a sprint. And when you are running, you are sprinting in a marathon race, you get to a distance and you fade out. It is those who are strategic in the race that will just overtake you, and those are the ones that will get the prize. That's what politics is about. These are things that this younger generation do not understand. Now we're talking about the INEC figure. That is the registered voter. The election proper will not recognize the registered voter, but the number of PVC collected. That's what the new law is saying, as tested in Ekiti and in Osun. Now, how many of these people who have been able to register as at Sunday will collect their PVC? Because it's not just registering. You must also collect the voter's card. That's the phase 2. The phase 3 is now going out of your comfort zone on the day of the election to go and cast the vote. We are not going to be phoning on our smartphone. We are not going to be voting on the phone. We have to leave the comfort of our house to go and queue up. If it rains on that day, we have to stay in that rain or high somewhere. Election, we must partake in it. Because that is what the only way to ensure that the candidates we are routing for, we are supporting, we are making noise about, that's the only way to get the candidate elected. If those who are shouting Obi now are not going to go all the way, then they should just forget about it.
Now, it takes me down to some of these editorials that one has also come across with, and some of them are saying that they are looking at the popularity base of Peter Obi and his fan base. And now this appears to be quite astonishing, given the fact that they are basing this election on popularity in terms of how many people like you, especially coming from the social media. And now they've said that they've even taken the campaign offline, meaning that they are not just on the social media. Now, can we base this election on fan base? Because that appears to be a major issue every young person in Nigeria are talking about. And it means that if it doesn't work the way they expected, I don't know, would there be some kind of reprisal attacks? Yeah. Because now what they have as a feeling is that they have clinched the box. Because that's a perspective being so even by the elder statesmen and some of those who are political juggernauts coming on the national dailies to say all of this, telling them ahead of time that, see, from every permutation, he's going to clinch the box. Now, would we not say that that is too hasty? And if it eventually doesn't happen that way, what do you see happening to the Nigerian society?
Well, there will just be what is it called now? Protests and counter-protests.
That's what you see happening?
Yes, because if it's not coming their way, it means, look, You can't just decide for me. You cannot assume I'm with you when you have not really asked me anything. That's what the people are saying, thinking. They thought that this 60 million younger generation of Nigerians so hate the APC and the PDP with all their strength, and they are going to transfer that hatred to voting for Peter Obi. That's wrong. They are forgetting that among that generation are the children of these people. They are people who are under their payroll, who are collecting money from them, partisan politicians, practicing politicians, who are young people. All these big parties also have their youth wings. It is not ghosts that are in those youth wings. They are human beings. And they have their respective influence in their respective locations. These are people that will also work not for the opposition Labour Party now, but for their own political party of PDP and APC. So when those ones now begin to work, coupled with those women that are already established in those, I'm talking about the market women, the artisans, all these trade organizations that are rooted already in these other parties. Add that to the figure. Now tell me what will be left for Peter Obi's group to get from the election, considering the fact that this group that we're even talking about do not have the habit of going out to vote. A good number of them A good number of them are coming onto the voters register for the first time.
You know why I even wanted to come to that? I wanted us to look at the Osun State and, of course, Ekiti State elections.
Yeah.
Now, for that Ekiti State elections, we saw what happened. Even some of them had to show off that they collected something in order for them to exercise their franchise. And, of course, in Osun State, we saw more of elderly people, more of the grassroots people voting. Now, what does it tell us about how much more we make so much noise, especially the 60% of the young persons who feel they have the population to decide their fate? And now, if you look at the process of the field work itself, do you see their presence there?
I've been saying it, maybe not directly, that they are not. I said politics.
So they are not ready.
Election is won by local forces, not abstract forces or people in the air or in the cloud.
Not like they are grassroots people, meaning that it's local.
They are concentrated in city centers. And it is not only in the cities that the election will take place. And when we even say cities, I'm talking about cities down south. The only city in the north where we could say, okay, a good number of them are concentrated is Abuja. Not Kaduna, not Kano, not Maiduguri and the rest of them. Abuja, even Jos, I don't think Obi is as popular as he ought to be in Jos, which is Plateau. So when you see things like that, these men, they are trying to use their influence, which has been watered down for some time. It's just because the reality is yet to set on them. And seeing this election, this part of the landmark, the defeat of the oligarch, is what of the product, what I'm predicting will be the outcome of that election.
How are they going to be defeated? Because now you talked about this set of cabals, if I have to put it that way. They are still connected and intertwined even with the processes that we're seeing presently. Whether we like it or not, some of the figures that their names have emerged, they are connected in one way or the other to these individuals who still feel that they are part of the establishment. Now, how do we end their reign? How easy would that be?
Now, the truth of the matter is, we have about 15 candidates now. Now, out of these 15 candidates, one is their first choice. They have a second choice. It may be popular, but it's just an alternative. If this one cannot sell, we'll fall back to him. Others that they may like are not as marketable. But there's one that they themselves know is out to stop them. And they have been using their influence, sponsoring all manner of propaganda against the person. And of course, his own supporters are getting strengthening because what they have been able to do so far is just to make the man to be more popular. It's making people to now dig into his is it possible that this person is like this? We begin to now find out, to now discover the truth that, okay, so they've been lying. Okay, then whatever is the reason why they are trying to stop
Afraid of this man, okay.
it is the reason why I'm going to vote for him. A large number of people are making that decision as we speak. I am on the streets. I talk to people. People ask questions from me by virtue of what I do here and outside of this place. And part of the feedback I'm getting is what I'm just expressing now. I don't do much of social media. I'm not an influencer there. I'm more on ground. People ask questions. Guy, what do you think of this? Why do you think this king can say? Well, what I will just do is to tell them the reason why I feel such decisions are made. It's up to them to now go and review what I've told them and let it inform their own personal decision. You understand? So these are things that will later play on, and we are still looking at 6 months plus. The election is not going to be.
Is that enough time? Even the 6 months?
It is 24 hours is enough time to determine anything. But we are talking about 6 months. That's why I said it is a marathon, not a sprint. And unless Obi slows down to begin to get strategic, he will run into trouble. He will. That is certain.
How do you mean?
Because he would have been exposing himself too much that he will not be able to defend when it matters. Because campaign is still ahead. Campaign will be starting next month. That will be followed by debates. Now, all those things he has already said will now become, it's just like the lawyers, the law enforcement, when they want to apprehend a suspect, they will say, hey, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say now will be used as evidence against you in the law court. Now, all those things he's been saying now, some people have been doing fact-checking to discover that some of these things are not accurate. Now, those inaccurate figures he has thrown out there will count against him when the debate proper will start, because he is exposing himself in that light. And that's why I said he just needs to slow down to be more strategic. If his handlers are listening, if you really want to help this man, you need to make sure he slows down and stop painting him as if he's a newcomer. He was governor for 8 years.
So he's not bringing anything new to the table.
He's part of the system. He has always been part of the system. He was governor for 8 years, served in the cabinet of Goodluck Jonathan. You understand? So he's not a novice in the system. So when you are now painting him as if, he's someone coming with fresh ideas from where? The moon? So these are things. People will still use his past to judge him, because that is the antecedent. How is Anambra? Let me look at Anambra. Let me look at Adamawa. Let me look at Lagos. You understand? These are things that some people will look at. So it's not everybody that is interested in the eloquence or the ability to quote figures verbatim or offhand. It's not everybody that is interested in all of that. In fact, there are some people that get suspicious of anybody with sweet mouth. This guy, his mouth is too sweet. I don't trust him. Some people are just like that. They will begin to I don't trust this guy. He's just talking. He will not be able to do all these things. He's just an average politician. We are tired of hearing stories. Let us know what you want to do. How do you intend to handle certain things? Now,
let's look at even the shift. It used to be like from 84 million registered voters. Now we're looking at 96.2 million. That's what some of the dailies are saying, reporting and quoting the INEC chairman. And now Lagos, Kano, Kaduna, Rivers, Katsina top 31 other states that appears to have actually gotten more voters, a registration of voters here. Now, looking at these strategic states like Lagos State, Kaduna, and the Zamfara, coming from the north itself, what role are they going to be playing in these elections? Now, a number of the Southwesterners will say that we shouldn't make the mistake of actually allowing power to shift to the north again. It must remain in the south. That's what many of them have been pushing. But now, how strategic can they be? With the number of voters we've seen already, how can they actually work out a proper calculation as to what their projection will look like?
Yes, it's going to determine a lot of things. I said it earlier that Peter Obi, I will begin to take him serious when people with structures, stronghold, are beginning to leave their existing platform to join the platform promoting him. Let's go back to the antecedent. He was in the PDP. He left the PDP for the Labour Party. Within a week, he became the candidate of the Labour Party. When he was leaving the PDP, how many PDP stalwarts
followed him.
Followed him to the Labour Party. PDP was controlling about 17 states. How many of the governors in those PDP states followed immediately to say in recognition of Peter Obi as their leader? You know, some in politics, you know, leadership and followership is the in thing. How many people see Peter Obi there as a leader?
So now, if you talk about, because you said that, when we talk about politics as game of number, are we saying not just the crowd, that there are some certain numbers you need to have from specific areas, which has to do with politics itself?
Yes.
Is that what we are saying?
That
or
is
just the
where
larger
I'm
crowd?
going.
Okay.
You highlighted those key states. These are states controlled by the APC. And the other key states is controlled by the PDP. Rivers, Delta. Those ones are stronghold of the PDP. Now, they both have candidates in this election who are not ordinary candidates. They are influential people. They carry followership. Now, let me tell you this. Apart from the issue of Muslim, what other baggages are Asiwaju carrying that you can point to? Initially, it was the health. When they saw that this man they are saying is not healthy, run the campaign of the primaries throughout, sat at the primary that lasted like almost 2 days without blinking an eye, and he did not go out or landed in the hospital. So that toned down. The next thing was certificates. And of course, those who knew him, knew his background, begin to speak. This man has worked with Mobile. He has worked with renowned accounting firms that are not Nigerian based. Do you think they will just pick a trans on the streets and employ? In the last organization, he rose to the post of a treasurer. So that toned down the certificate issue. So they were now looking for another thing again. And when he picked the running mate, you know, even though there has been insinuations, suspicions about that is what is likely to happen. So he simply confirmed that by choosing Chetima, another Muslim from the north. That created an outcry. The Christian Association began to... And until when they now begin to seek fellow Christians, still identifying, not minding that was also tuning down now.
But was Tinubu able to clarify that aspect of fake, whether it's fake prophets or not, the fake clerics or not? Because that actually characterized the social media to a large extent, that they went too desperate.
It doesn't need to do that, because even the so-called fake prophets had done that by themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw a video of one of them who initially did not want to grant any interview, but he just, maybe on second thought, decided to stop. And he introduced himself, mentioned his ministry, explained the purpose why they were there, and also gave a warning that this thing that people are drumming, when it starts, it's going to start in your house. That it's better we just de-emphasize it as quick as possible. Because, you know, when you make such declaration or agitation, you are declaring war on the other party. Now, if the Muslim already, before that is coming up, we are seeing the case of a Christian student being lynched you understand, in some states. Now imagine if they will now go full-fledged political. Can we handle? They are more violent than the Christians. So why are Christians now drumming war? As if we can really contend with that if it happens, because some politicians are speaking into our ears. So you understand what I'm saying? So that will also, is already tuning down, because they are getting the signal that come. We need to not eat up the policy. If you really want your man to get there, election must hold. And if you are not tuning down this thing, the crisis that will follow will not make election to hold. So what will not be your gain at the end of the day? So these are things that is tuning that down. Now, this party controls 22 states as we speak.
APC now?
Yes. And they have a candidate that is popular among majority of the governors of those states controlling the structure. He may not be popular with all the governors. Of course, he still have time to reconcile with them. Some are in a haste, moving out, thinking It's a sinking ship, they will not sink with it. But that is to them. And a good number of the lawmakers, they are decamping because they have nothing to really stand for in the party. They are not coming back on the platform of that party because they've been denied tickets in that party. So they just have to, like, why would I be laboring for a party that denied me the chance to come back to the National Assembly? So that can be understood. But the thing now is, yeah, if you still put your loyalty at place, you can still get something if the party wins. But if you go away and thinking the place you are going to, well, is going to win and they didn't win, what will now be your gain eventually? So these are some of the things that those who are attempting to move from one place to another need to be cautious of. Now, but look at the PDP. Yes, they are showing the grievance, but they've not moved. And that's one thing I respect the PDP for.
Talking about Wike and Atiku.
Yes, even those who are supporting Wike. Ordinarily, if it were maybe in APC, if that is happening in APC, you would have seen exodus. I'm sure if Osinbajo is not the vice president, he would have moved because he is being put, pressure is on him. And if you look at his body language, he's not really, speaking to campaign for their candidates. He's still showing that grievance, that feeling of dissatisfaction is still being displayed, like Wike too. But you see them in the PDP, they will still hold on, they will express their grievance. Because some of them will say, well, I've labored too much for this party, I cannot leave it. Whether we float or sink, we are in together. So that's what has been keeping the party going. Because being out of government, after ruling for 16 years, for close to 8 years, is enough to destroy a political party that does not have strong people in there. So that is working. Now, we're not talking about a platform that is just imagined, with no strong people that we know. Okay, when you mention a state, you mention their name in their state. We can calculate the number of influence. Even their emergence as supporters of a particular candidate comes with certain number of votes.
So they don't have a momentum for this election itself.
At all. The Labour movement is declaring their open support, saying they are going to collapse. And when I heard that, I laughed like.
You think they can't do that? The workers
comedy.
too.
Now let me prove that. Let me prove that they cannot do it. And I wish if Ayuba Waba is listening, he can issue a statement tomorrow morning to disprove what I'm about to say. Now they have branches. They have affiliates. Now, their branches are made up of workers, mostly state workers, who are partisan, loyal to the governor of their state. The Labour Party is not controlling any state as a ruling party. Now you are relying on people who are partisan, card-carrying member of opposition parties to work for you. Now the affiliates, take the NURTW for instance. You and I both know that the governor of each state controls the NURTW structure. And the structure will not go and campaign for opposition. They will campaign for the party that is supporting them, because they know if the governor should close his eyes to their activity, they are going to go out of job, like it happened in Oyo State. The man came and said, well, I don't want any NURTW, I'm using park management system. And that stands. And when they were giving the man in Lagos problem, they said they sack him. Fine, you sack him, fine. I'm setting up another park management system, and I'm putting him in charge because that is the man I want to be there to handle transport activity. Now look at that structure that NLC is claiming to have. Are they with them? I just mentioned too, if you begin to go into the other artisans organizations too that are supposed to be part of the labor movement, it's just not the echelon, the executive, those who are representing them. It's not all of them that, even in Ayuba Waba state. So
you are saying that they can't mobilize for a political process? Because they mobilize for protests and strikes.
They are activists. Activists don't do well in politics, especially grassroots mobilization. They are known for mobilizing for rallies, for protests against a particular government policy or their personal
Is that interest. Why the likes of Showore hasn't gone that far?
Yes. And before him, we had a Ganifa Wayemi contesting the presidency.
National Conscience Party.
Of course. So why did he not? Why did this candidacy not sell? We can even go a little bit backward. Ken Saro-Wiwa is a renowned critic, human rights activist, a writer, very popular figure outside of Ogoniland. But in 1994 now, when the Constituent Assembly was being constituted by the late General Abacha, he lost the assembly, the election in that Ogoniland. Which is to tell you that, you may be popular up there, but people in the on ground must recognize you and believe in your ideas before they will support and follow you. So these are things that Obi will need to deal with. Can he even win Anambra State if he's not identifying with ABGA that controls the state? And ABGA can decide to say, okay, we are aligned with PDP, and they will vote for PDP. They could say we are aligned with APC. And if you look at the utterances of the new governor, talking about Charles Soludo, he's not really been speaking in support of Peter Obi's candidature. And that's supposed to be his penultimate.
But what about Ume? Ume used to be one of the leadership of ABGA before in the southeast. So it appears that he's also joining the obedient movement.
And because he too has fallen out of favor within the, I think Victor Oye controls the party now. And they have their own presidential candidate. Yes, he may decide to withdraw his candidature to align with somebody else that is more popular. That will be a product of negotiation. And that's what will determine what will happen in Anambra State, because the Anambra State's structure is still fashioned around the ABGA platform. So these are things that we are saying that the supporters need to, but a good number of these younger generations are gullible. So their gullibility and naivety is what these old people are trying to take
advantage of. Wow.
Which is not going to work, because if you are abandoning the veteran, thinking the novice are the ones that will work, the veterans know the game. They would outsmart, they would outmaneuver them.
Now, many of the young ones that you talked about now are looking at technicalities, and this aspect of technicalities is vote buying. And they are saying, as a matter of fact, if you could look at the slogan of the obedient movement, no taking shishi, something close to that. We know they give shishi. Now, that is the perspective they've been selling out there, that their vote will count, as a matter of fact, once they get their PVC. Now, the technicality is that you can't buy me over, and that's what you're saying. Now, how much more will this go?
The 100 billion they are raising, what would they do with it? Just television advertising.
You think that is part of the process?
That is part of the naivety I'm talking about. Those ones saying that do not know the plans of the real people that are pushing Obi out.
The establishment.
They don't know their plans. They are just enjoying the fact that those ones are following him gullibly. But the thing is, reality will set in when the time comes. And some people will see the election and maybe will not be able to hit for 2 days. That's the truth. Because to people like us, we are just watching the whole thing like drama, comedy, and we're laughing that, this is Nigeria, not France. And that has only happened in France. How come an independent person not coming out of the Republican or Democrat, he emerged as the President of the United States of America? That's the power of structure. That is the power of structure. And at every election, we've always had independent candidates getting a few 100,000 votes. Some will get to 1 million. But they will not win any state. And it's a delegate election, election that they run over there. Once you win the state, you get all the delegates of the state.
And so what do we now make of the Afenifere leader that has been canvassing for Peter Obi? Now, Afenifere actually came up. I think they are of 2 groups now. And they came up and saying he's not speaking for the Yorubas. Now, talking about Adebanjo. Now, if you look at all of this process itself, even within the Southwest itself, it's more or less like they are divided and, of course, have misfeelings about this electoral process itself.
Look, if you look at the utterance of socio-cultural organizations like the Afenifere,
Ohanes and Dibo,
you will miss it. What are the politicians saying? Those are the ones playing the game, not people who just sit in their comfort of their homes and be granting press.
Don't they also have followers?
They have. Their time has passed. Yes, they are Adebanjos. They worked with Awolowo. Awolowo is resting in his grave now. The new Awolowo is what they should be looking at, identify among them and support. Okay, this is the one that is going in line with the pattern of our mentor. But if they are saying that they have not seen that in the man from Southwest, then maybe they are not seeing clearly.
All right, as we go, with the pocket of crisis we already see across Nigeria, now many people are also having this fear, will election hold? Now with the spate of kidnapping and threats bedeviling the nations coming together in a peaceful accord, how much more do we see a successful election in 2023?
Those behind the insecurity, what they eat is politics. When
Really?
they see that, and politics, the main thing that determines the food is the election. Election would hold. 2015, Boko Haram was controlling 14 local governments. The election was postponed by 6 weeks for that place to be cleared out and be made comfortable for election to hold. The politicians know what to do. They are playing. Those are the things that should stop, that I see the 2023 election putting an end to. Some people just there, be calling their boys in the military, don't go and attack those people. Just be pretending as if you didn't go. You will not say anything. He doesn't talk.
So even the
These are
military
things
has
that
been
are going-
infiltrated.
By the special grace of God, they have been in. Why are some people calling for the removal of the defense minister and the NSA now? Because it seems that they are not doing their job.
So
if
what is the way
principal will
forward?
not sack them,
All right,
then
so
let's call for their removal.
let's take your parting shots, Mr. Sumbo. What is the way forward? How do we have a healthier elections in spite of all the permutations we're seeing?
Well, people should continue following the process. And all those who have been able to register, including those who have transferred. If you have transferred your voter's card from one location to another, you will have to collect a new PVC. So have it in the back of your mind that the one you currently carry will not be valid at the election. So you have to have it at the back. And if you register without collecting PVC,
You can't vote.
you are not different from the person that did not register at all. So all these things are what the people should need to have at the back of their mind. When we come out en masse to vote, we have already defeated the establishment, because they will not be able to manipulate the situation when they see crowd. But when they see few people, they will go and begin to knock the door. Why are you not voting? Oh yeah, take, go and. That is what will happen. But we can stop that by mobilizing ourselves in mass to go cast the vote, because 2023 is key if this nation must move forward.
All right, on that note, we must say a big thank you to Mr. Sumbo Badejoko for your time on the program this evening. And of course, as a public affairs analyst, we've learned so much from him this evening. And of course, looking at political projections ahead of 2023, we hope we get it right. And of course, we'll have a better election than what we used to have in time past. My name is Bolabo Fimosko. Join us again next week for another interesting edition. Bye for now.